monthly live stream with the TLB Club or the Thought Leadership Brand Club. I'm here with three amazing and powerful, impactful, and wonderful women leaders who I'm looking forward to sharing their insights and for Women's History Month, really showcase and share knowledge from their insights and their stories. So I'm really excited about having this conversation. If you are joining in, we do appreciate you to tell us where you're calling in from. Are you calling in from North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Europe, Australia? Would love to see you. But I'm going to actually go right, and I'm not even going to do my own introduction. I'm going to get right into you guys. So let's start with Pam at the top. Please introduce yourself, everybody, and then pass it on to Marie and then Nikki.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Pam, and I live in Texas. And I have been coaching and working with technology teams for a very long time. In my spare time, when I'm not doing that, I'm a mom. I have a 15, soon to be 16 and driving year old. So I know you guys are sending me all kinds of good love there. And I will pass it to Marie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marie Zimenoff, and I'm the CEO of Career Thought Leaders and Resume Writing Academy. And we train career service providers, so career coaches, resume writers, so that they can help their clients be happier, more successful, and have a career plan. Good luck with that in these days, but we try. So I've been doing that for 15 years, and I just love helping people who help people find work. Nikki.
Well, I'm Nikki Estes. I'm the CEO of Market Me More. I also support Top Voices Unite and Emerging Voices Unite. I like to be able to provide services for founders and investment portfolios that have founders so that we can be able to get them scaling quickly. We have an event package that we do, or I should say not package, but circuit that we do throughout the year where we do virtual events, and it all feeds into an in-person event so that the founders can get those resources that they need. And then speaking of children, I have 5. Ages 10, 12, 14, 18, and 20. And I'm married to an awesome guy that's watching them right now while I'm here.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for that. And for those who don't know me, I'm Bobby Omar. I'm a motivational speaker by trade, 1,000 keynotes, workshops across 4 continents for the last 20 years. I'm a 5-time TEDx speaker, a 3-time TEDx invite decliner. I talk about leadership, thought leadership, personal branding, and content strategy. I also run the TLB Club, which is a membership community designed to empower business owners and thought leaders to elevate their business, their sales, their brand voice, and network with one another, because we believe a rising tide lifts all boats. And also on the topic of the TLB Club, it's a membership community. You're welcome to join us anytime. We have a weekly Thursday Zoom call with a masterclass with guest experts. We have a library of 200 different masterclasses we've done, and you get access to weekly coaching, a private WhatsApp group, and just a place to not feel alone, a place to feel supported, a place to feel empowered, a place to feel safe, as well as deal with all the overwhelm of tech, AI tasks. Being a business owner is always a challenge, but that's kind of why we're here, to help each other. So with that, that's who I am and what I do. I want to get right into the questions. I think the first thing I would ask you is to maybe start telling me about what does Women's History Month mean to you. I'll start with you, Marie, and then we'll go to Nikki after that.
I think it's an opportunity to remember and all the opportunities to celebrate women in all the ways that we serve society. And recently went to a little innovation event at my son's school. I forgot to say, I have a 6 and 8-year-old. And in 3rd grade, they do an innovation fair where each of the kids had to pick an inventor and dress like them, write a little report, and then all the parents went around and met these inventors at their tables. And it was interesting how all of the girls chose women. Most of the boys, if not all of the boys, chose men. And it was a good opportunity, I think, for me to see that, but also for the kids to see that women have made all of these contributions to science and literature and all the things. And I don't know that we do that enough. We tend to focus on the big name inventors who tend to be male. And so it's just a cute way for me to celebrate Women's History Month, to see all these young women celebrating female inventors.
I really like that you brought that out, the female inventors, because they hold all kinds of roles, but they've invented some really significant things. I'm excited about being a part of this because I'd like to identify that women, they have done some great things. But then at the same time, I'd like to be able to, any of the minorities, right? There's some opportunities that we could be able to support them, give ideas through this event. I'm thinking of some resources that they could be able to use. So I like that you brought up events, Marie. Pam, how does the women's history hit you?
Well, it's funny that we even have a Women's History Month, because I can remember as I've grown up and gone through my career, I didn't see a lot of great celebrations for women. And, I have a tendency to try to gravitate towards that. So I'm honored that we have it. I used to be an athlete, so I lean towards the sports area, and I'm doing everything I can to champion the sports as well as just folks in all different kinds of industry. I know they say that you have to see it before you can believe you can be it. So I feel every time we have a chance to showcase role models, particularly women, it's helping us, it's helping little girls, it's helping everyone to recognize that, they could do anything that they want to do. And I think it's very important. So I'm honored and grateful to be here, Bobby.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for that. And again, people are signing in. There's Dr. Hey there, good to see you. So people are, again, if you're tuning in, make sure you say hello, ask your questions. You can engage everybody. We do appreciate it. You can share and let us know where you're calling in from. So thanks so much for that. And again, I mean, I'm only an ally, and I had come from a place of privilege. But what I can tell you is that for me, what Women's History Month means to me is being mindful of my allyship. How can I support the women in my life, the women in the world? I think about my mom, my sister, my wife, my daughter. What kind of world am I building? And to me, allyship is a big part of what I do. I believe in diversity, equity, inclusion. I believe in helping people who are from marginalized communities. And so for me, the intersectionality of this and what women are all about is why I'm doing this. And so today, one of the things that we, in the TLB club, Marie, Pam, and Nikki are all part of the TLB club, and I'm grateful that you're there because your leadership inspires a lot of people. But I also wanted to feature you because I think you're awesome people doing really awesome things in different ways, and I really am inspired by you and what you've done. So thank you so much for that. But let's go back to, I mean, you mentioned what Women's History Month means to you, but maybe talk about what tell me a bit more about some of the challenges you had, in terms of in terms of your life and elevating your career and getting to where you are today. I'd love to start with you, Pam, on that one.
Oh, wow. Well, for me, it has to start with family. My mom is still my greatest role model, in watching what she was able to accomplish. She was very smart. She's still the smartest person I think I've ever met. She was valedictorian in her high school, and she went to college, but she wasn't able to finish because they didn't have enough money for that second and third and fourth year. So she moved to New York and she started working, and that's when she actually met my dad. But just watching her raise a family, work part-time, watching my grandparents, my grandma, my aunts and uncles, just watching all what they had to do to try to do the best they could for their family, encouraging us. I was very lucky because, I tried every sport, every club you could do, and my parents never said no. And so did my brother. And so I'm experiencing that now with my child, having to take him everywhere and pick him up and everything. And I just have the one, but they had two. And like I said, just understanding what it takes to actually, motivate and inspire and help raise healthy, hopefully well-adjusted children is a big deal. So I think I'm leaning most on my family for that. I have had a couple of role models in work, different supervisors and bosses who've also motivated me, but I would have to say those are probably my biggest influences.
How about you, Marie? Can you talk a bit about the challenges or any sort of the struggles in the early days of your path? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I was raised by a single mom who had 3 girls, and, I think when I look back at our high school years, I mean, she did everything, right? She went everywhere. We lived in a small town, we drove 5 hours to some of our sporting events, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
and, she went everywhere with us, she did it all. She leased cars even though people told her that was a stupid financial move because she just couldn't afford for, the car to break down while she was on the road to a 5-hour event. So I look at that and the strength and role model that was there. But then I think about sitting in a bank. So I started a career coaching practice and 10 years ago, almost exactly, bought a training business. And it was a big purchase. It cost more than my current house, well, my first house. Um, And so I went to the bank to see if I could get a loan. And I know women still face this today, but I was treated like, oh, you're cute. Oh, look at this cute business. And I ended up having to take out second mortgage on our house because they wouldn't give me a loan for the business. And women face that every day, women of color even more. And the fact that we invent anything, that we build businesses is just amazing because there's not a structural support that there is for, I'm sorry, but men. For men who start a business, they're much more likely to get support and to get financing.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you on that one. And Nikki, how about you? I mean, in the early days of trying to get to where you are, you've been very successful, but what were the challenges and struggles in the early days?
I would say I prioritized the children. So we talk about the lines in the sand. And so my husband and I, we were not supposed to have any children. I was told by 6 doctors before I was 19 that I would never have children. And so I had a career path in mind. I was going to law school, I was going to be a senator, and I was going to build impact one way or the other with children. And that changed. After we had gotten married, a couple of years in, boop, here comes Ethan. And then, my schooling, it was hard, working was hard. I was as big as a house. I may look small now, but I can go 200 pounds in 9 months really easily. And so that was a struggle for us to be able to make those decisions because daycare was really expensive, right? And if I wanted to be able to pursue this, then I had to give up any kinds of dreams of that time, with our child. And so we drew some lines in the sand. And then Jason he was going to school full time. He had a job full time. And then he started our company on the side. And then my full-time job was to be able to support him in all of those roles at the same time as one child. Then a little bit later, another child, and it became my full-time career. So the difficulty that I had was, is this all that I am? I saw so much that I was going to go forward with. And I had to find that is enough. It is enough to be a mom. It is enough to be able to carry those children into successful positions. It is enough to be your husband's right arm, walking right beside him. So that was in the beginning some things that I had to struggle with. But then now I get to lead my own company, and then I have his support in the same way.
Thanks for sharing those great stories. And I'll share a quick story about my daughter. So my daughter, she and her brother we had an opportunity to perform and play a basketball game in front of like thousands of people, which was really cool, and they're really excited about it. But when she got there, they were on the floor, and I was just videotaping from the stands. My son threw a 3-pointer, and the crowd went wild. I screamed. I was excited. But when they came back, my daughter was upset because she said I ran up and down the court, and the boys never passed me anything, and she was very, very upset. And I was really upset too, and I didn't know how to help her. I just this is something that she's dealing with even at a young age, and I think that it's important to understand that there's always going to be barriers, particularly systemic ones, from the men in their lives, whether they're boys or they're men. So it definitely brought a lot of brought a lot of light to in terms of what she's going through. I mean, when you think of these young girls and what they're going through, even at the young age, I mean, what would be your message for them as they encounter all these struggles? And maybe I'll start with you, Nikki.
I would tell them to think that they are enough, that they need to believe that they're enough, no matter what it is that they get into. If it is some kind of career path where they own a business like Marie, and she's the CEO and she was able to buy it, then yes, you are more than enough to be able to handle that. If you are Pam and you're in sports, and you've got this technical career, you are enough. No matter how many guys are in the room or no matter what anybody else says, right? You are enough. And for those that are moms and you're doing something on the side to support your family, I would tell these young girls as they grow up to be women, you are enough. How about you, Marie? What would you say? How would you encourage the young ladies?
Oh, that was so powerful, Nikki. I love that. Wow. So I don't know if y'all saw, but they did a new commercial, Nike commercial during the Super Bowl. And the message was kind of like, no one's ever going to think you're enough. No one's ever going to think you can win. So just win. And it was all the messages that women get, right? You didn't dress, you're too scanty, not scanty enough. All the conflicting messages that we get every day, too fat, too skinny, whatever. And it's never going to be right. And the message was just win. Like, just, it's kind of the same thing you're saying. Just do you, because it's never going to be what everybody else approves of. And I think that's so true in our society today. We're talking about, motherhood versus working women, and you just can't win. So just do you, and win how you want to win.
Yeah, that is my favorite commercial. Thank you very much. I think I wrote about it on LinkedIn. I write about everything on LinkedIn, by the way. I think for me, one of the things I would encourage them to do is to have some friends that can help support them. Maybe there's some coaches as a mentor and so forth, because you need that voice to tell you you're going to make it. You're doing great. You've got the talent. You've got the skill. And if it's is the only voice that you're hearing, then you get those gremlins that are saying you're not enough, you can't do it. So you really need help, I think, from the outside as well to help push you and encourage you. So I would definitely say any person who's trying to help an individual or someone that is trying to help you, find those people and kind of stay with them. And anytime you have any doubts or so forth, go to them, and you will get the encouragement from your teammates, from coaches, from teachers, from whomever that group of support system is. I think that still helps me today. So I definitely encourage that as well.
Really good point.
Yeah, no, I love this. And it's funny, every time I share a quote or a quote from somebody in the audience, I disappear, which is fine, but it's just kind of funny how that happens. I actually, and what's interesting too is I want to share something that's just come up. So, something's come up. So somebody in the chat stream, but I think it's on Instagram, they're saying not very nice things. And I just there are men out there that are toxic, saying really, really terrible things. And I'm not sure if I should share them with you, but basically he's being really sexist by saying, cook me dinner, clean kitchen. And so what I'm going to tell him right now is that part of my job as a man is to call out other toxic men for being idiots and saying really, really, I'm going to say it, saying really shitty, misogynistic, sexist, dumb things, right? So wherever you are, Brady Buckets, I'm calling you out, and I don't need your nonsense here. And there's women out there, we have to support them, we have to empower them, and we also need to have men to call out other bad men, because that's the way. From my experience with diversity and being someone who's brown, is we need other people outside, allies, to speak up too. So I'm going to call that guy out. So what do you do when you get all this type of like absolutely toxic male chauvinistic nonsense? I mean, what's the way to approach that, Pam? You said you post on LinkedIn. Let's say someone says something not very nice in the comments. Like, what would you say? Well, how would you handle that?
Honestly, I just keep it moving, because I already know that I can't expect everyone in the world to like me, support me, encourage me, and want to see me do well. So, I think it's a question of odds. If 90% or 95% of what you're receiving is positive, we have a tendency to dwell on the negative thing and hold on to it. And I'm going to show them. And every year I get older, I tell myself I don't have time for the noise. So I set up boundaries. Maybe I don't even read the comments. I find ways where a lot of it doesn't even enter my space, Bobby. And just by doing that, I feel like I'm more at peace. I'm happier. And I don't do the ups and downs of what everyone does every day when they expose themselves to all of the things, because I can't fix it. I can't make them better. So why take all that energy letting it upset you? So I'm very good at kind of disappearing and not seeing and focusing on the positive. So that's what I do.
Nikki, what do you do?
I'm with her. Like, just ignore it. Just walk away, close your ears, turn around. Like, you can't fix them. You can be a light, you can be loving, but at the end of the day, like, that's a problem with them. That's not your problem.
Okay, let me counter by saying, Marie, is there a time or a moment where you would or should say something?
So I actually empower people to delete the comments. I know that, some people are against that, but if someone's not adding to the conversation at all, and they're just being mean or rude, like, this is my space. My LinkedIn page is my space, my whatever, it's my space. And you can have a different opinion. We can have a dialogue. But if you're being mean, derogatory, whatever, I am deleting that comment because I don't allow that in my space. Just like with my kids, right? They're allowed to be mad, but they're not allowed to be mean. That's basic parenting. So that I just don't allow that. I delete that from my space. Now, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on where maybe you want to reach out to that person privately and start a conversation, but only if there is some constructive reason to do that. Or to your point, Bobby, if I can be an ally to someone else, I will do that, because they shouldn't have to fight all of their own fights. But I also give myself that out, that I don't have to fight all the fights either. So if there's a constructive reason to do it, or I can, be an advocate for someone else, I might do it. But I do give people permission to delete the comments that just don't belong in your space.
Sure. And
You know
Isa
what
brings
that
up a
made me
good point
think of?
there.
Go ahead.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. You made me think of something Brene Brown when she talks about that quote where she says, if you're just in the cheap seats, she only accepts feedback from folks who are in the arena. So you're out there doing things, putting yourself out there and sharing. And if you're just in the cheap seats throwing stuff, she's like, I have no space for you. Sorry.
Nikki,
Yeah,
what are you going to say?
I was going to say, Dr. Isla Perkins, she brings up the good point that, sometimes it is good to say something, right? So just like you stood up for us, like if it's against someone else, then that's a time to be able maybe to stand together to make sure that they realize that what they're saying is hurtful, but then if it continues, then you can put up those boundaries around that so that you don't get hurt, or that the people that you care about don't get hurt. But I think that the silence could be taken as weakness, right? But if you're strong enough and you know that you're enough, then it's okay. Just walk away and focus on the positive. Focus on the 95% you're talking about, Pam, because that's much better to focus on.
Big time.
Well, and we've got to realize on LinkedIn that if you respond to someone's comments, you're building their visibility. And so, again, if there's a reason to respond, I will, but I am very careful about giving someone else's nonsense my audience's eyes. It's just not, we don't need that. I don't need to draw their attention to someone else's. And I've had a whole article written about how one of my programs is a scam. And I just thought really hard about that. Like, do I respond to this? But I realized that if I respond, all I'm doing is giving that person more visibility, right? I'm giving them all of my 26,000 followers eyes on their stuff, and they don't deserve that. The people who know what's what are going to realize that person doesn't know what they're talking about, and I can't carpet the world. I just got to stay in my lane.
No, that's really interesting, and it's funny we bring this up because the TLB Club does weekly Zoom master classes with guest experts, and I'm actually doing one specifically on dealing with toxicity and trolls across social media at end of April. So you guys can come to a TLB Club again. We have monthly live streams, we have weekly calls with some amazing speakers, and this week actually we have Derek Mildred coming in, which can be a lot of fun. But we also, I'm going to talk about that because I think people need to have different plans. And one sneak peek I'll tell you is that the most important piece is to understand that there's an emotional toll with engaging, right? In fact, whether you ignore, because even ignoring something has an emotional toll. You're like, oh, I wish I'd said that. What should I have said? Deleting it, blocking, and responding. All those carry an emotional toll. So you have to be mindful of what works best for you and what you need to do for yourself. So I think that's an important piece I think people should really understand. So because it is a challenge for a lot of folks, and but let's get. But again, the people still commenting. By all means, this is brought to you by the TLB Club. We'd love for you guys to add more comments, share your thoughts, and then I'll share those up there. Now, going on to another topic. Actually, I want to go back to something you guys brought up. I think that you brought up some motherhood. In fact, all three of your moms, right? So I'd love to understand your take on that because, I think that, motherhood obviously brings its own challenges while trying to build your business, trying to build your brand. It's a choice that some people make and some people choose not to have kids. But I wanted to kind of get your take on that in terms of finding the balance and prioritizing. How do you prioritize and find that balance between the things you're trying to do and the things and where you're trying to go? So maybe I'll put that to you, Pam, and then we'll go from there.
I was going to say, if you let Nikki go with the 5 kids, I don't know that we're going to have anything to add. Well, for me, I actually, my son was born when I was a little bit older, so I was a little bit further along in my career. And, I really consider it a miracle because, I was worried about all these things externally and so forth. And then when he showed up, everything got clear. And the thought was, okay, your job is to take care of him and yourself. That's it. And so that's what I focused on. And there were things that came up. I remember I had an opportunity when I was pregnant to go to Denver to go to a master black belt class for Six Sigma because I got my green belt. And I thought, man, this is going to be hard to turn down because this is something very valuable. And because, I hadn't been successful before, I was worried about traveling on the plane. And I told them, no, I'm going to have to say no. And so for me, I just felt like he is more important than anything anybody could offer me or say or anything. And as a result, I'm grateful because I wouldn't trade having him for anything. But I will admit, when I was younger and, when he went to daycare and mommy had to go to work and I sat in the parking lot crying and all the mascara was all over my face. And I remember thinking, how do people do this? This is just awful. But I think like everyone, you get past that and then you actually see him enjoying the daycare and you see him thriving and learning and you think, okay, things are working out. But there's moments where you're very unsure and can I do it all? And, you doubt yourself. So I know that, even though my mom was married and had my dad to help, I just realized, people have always told me I'm a strong woman. Nobody has ever called me weak or incapable or anything. And with that, I just thought, I need to take the strength they believe I have and use it and carry forward and do the best I can. And so I'm grateful that I was able to do that. And now everybody that meets him and talks about him, he's so kind, he's so polite, he's so nice. How did you do it? And I just tell him, I don't know. We just went day by day. But I think that would be what I would share. What about you, Marie?
So I also had my kids a little bit later. We bought the business actually to have the cash flow to be able to do procedures to help us get children. And that we were more established, but I also had my first child a year after I bought the business. So it was like wham, wham, right? And we got a nanny. So within 8 weeks of having my first son, my husband was like, we need help. And I was like, yep, you're right. We need help. And I think that's one of the hardest things for most people to do, but definitely when you're a mom and you've got other people that you're caring for, in addition to having a business and a career, you cannot have it all unless you ask for help. And that has been a lifelong lesson for me, that I'm still learning, and that I think that's just how it works. But when you ask for help, beautiful things happen. And that's been so many friendships and colleagues. And, my first nanny was just amazing. And so all these good things that happen with relationships as well as with business and family when you do ask for help. How about you, Nikki?
I think asking for help is the key to being a mom, right? Whatever that looks like. I would say that, my parents very young weren't able to help out a lot, right? They were both working. I was born to them young, and then here I was a young mom. And I won't tell all of the stories because another thing that us women happen to fall into traps of is that it seems like there's a comparison, right? That there's that ugliness, right? And so I don't want to go there. Because there's not a comparison. I just happened to have 5. 4 of them I had biologically, they're boys. And then we adopted a girl during COVID. And you can take me off the pedestal because it's a pain in the to be able to go through all of that. But I would say if you diagnose our experience together, the only way that we were able to be successful is because at the right time we had the right support. So whereas my mom and dad couldn't be so involved when the kids were young, they come in now. So when we travel, they can come join me, but it was the community, it was our church, it was other people that have jumped in. So for the both of you, yeah, it's the right people at the right time. And then it's just believing that no matter what, this is your calling, whatever it is that you get into. And gosh, you're superheroes, right? You've got capes in the closet. And when those get torn, you go get another one from the dry cleaner, right? You guys are rock stars. And that's how you're able to be the successful women that you are today. I'm glad to be up here with you. It's fantastic.
Me too.
Oh,
Yeah, this is fun. And one thing, one inspiring message from another woman leader that I was following was she was talking about how you can't have it all, but you can fit a lot of amazing things in your life. So you have to choose what are the things you want to fit in your life. You can choose motherhood or you don't have to. You can choose, entrepreneurship or not. You can choose, learning to play guitar, but you choose because you cannot do everything, right? Otherwise, you break the laws of physics. I mean, if I could have everything I want, I'd be traveling 24/7 and being a parent 24/7 and doing other stuff 24/7. That's not possible. So, what are the things you want to fit in your life that are going to be important to you that align with your values, that align with your brand? I think that's an important piece to come to understand. And the other piece about support, I think, is really important. So speaking of support and mentorship, I'd love to understand who are some other women that you admire and seek inspiration from. I'll start with you, Marie.
Oh my goodness. So I bought my business from two very strong, successful women who also had kids. Not that, again, you have to, but that was a good, it was a great mentorship for me. So we're fortunate in the career space that a lot of those legacy folks in the business are strong entrepreneurial women with kids. So Louise Kurzmark, Wendy Analo, Jan Melnick, these folks have been in the business since the 80s. They started their business from home when computers were just becoming a thing. They, did it so that they could have a business while they were raising kids. And we just have this great opportunity to see that in motion from the very kind of beginning of what was especially resume writing as a business. And Susan Britton, same thing. If you ever heard of the coaching academies, she's same way, started her business as a young mom. And there's just so many of them in my space. How about you, Nikki?
Wow, how about you, Pam? Oh, sorry.
Did you throw it to me?
Yeah, Pam, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did I doze off a minute? Okay, I'm here. I've had some great role models at different companies I've worked in. Again, I lean more towards my family, having watched what they have done because I got to see it up close and personal. But I try to pull resources, and I follow different folks on podcasts. I'm always encouraged by watching women leaders share information. One of my favorite podcasts is called Hello Monday. It's a LinkedIn podcast where they have different women or men come in and talk about the workspace and what they've gone through. So I'm always just looking for kind of like a wide net of people doing things to give me ideas and inspire me. But as far as women who motivate me, like I said, I have those in the workspace, but my number one mentor is a male. His name is Nigel. And it's funny because my mom's no longer with us. I know you're going to think this is weird. And when I met him and I would listen to him talk, it sounded like my mom was talking. He was saying the same words, the things she used to speak into me and stuff. And I don't know if there's any hocus pocus or anything, but it just makes me feel like her voice is still with me when I go to him and ask him questions and get advice. So he's probably one of my stronger role models, but I think they're all around me. What about you, Nikki?
I love that you brought up a male because I know that this is Women's History Month, and I know there's this whole wrapped around, the struggles that are there as being a female, but we learn so much from guys, right? We learn so much from women, but I mean, there's something to be said about the men in our life that we can be able to lean to. Like, I grew up on books my dad would feed us, like Dale Carnegie, and Tom Hopkins, because he was a sales guy and entrepreneur. Those were the Og Mandino, like you've got these greats out there that wrote these books. And so I'm not so much trying to be the best woman that I can. I want to be the best me that I can. And so I can't point to really one woman book, Bobby. I mean, I think that there are lots of people that have influenced me over the last however many years that I've been alive. I still say 34, but yeah, that's where I'm at, and I value the resources you're sharing here, Pam. So I hope I've got some of my ladies are here watching this, and go find those links, go find those Amazon books, and let's share them. Let's share the podcast in this so that we can be able to empower other people that are going through this so that they can be able to follow the same journey that we have, because we didn't get here by ourselves. We got here because we were investigating. We were building the best versions of ourselves. So thank you, Bobby, for asking that.
Always good. Thank you, Bobby.
And I think I'll use this time right now to do a shout out to my mom. One of the things with my mom is, she's getting older now, and so she's 80, and I'm reflecting on, what she's done for me in my life, and the role modeling and the leadership and the stuff she's done. And again, she chose a path that was just to be, a homemaker and a mom and take care of us, and everything she did for us is something that I'm trying to live the legacy that she's helped me create. And not to get too emotional here, but yeah, like I just I want to make a big shout out to her because she's the best role model I could ever have.
That's nice.
So with that, I mean, we have more time. If you have questions, put them in the chat box. I want to make a note that this is brought to you by the Founders Brand Club. So if you take a look at that little QR code there in the top left, you'll see exactly what we offer: weekly coaching, private LinkedIn group, a private WhatsApp group to ask questions, to get feedback on things, to get support, to be part and be able to share what you need to share on the journey of entrepreneurship and growing your brand, growing your thought leadership. You can check out that QR code out, come to one of our Zoom calls, and meet the members, meet the speakers, and see what it's all about. And maybe I don't want to throw away questions out, what you guys are liking about TLB Club, but maybe what I would do is ask you, you mentioned support systems. So like, when it comes to women who are leading empowering, obviously having support systems, Nikki, you've created your own community. So maybe you can talk a bit about that. How do you find, create, and leverage the communities and support systems to help you, stand out and be a superstar the way you guys are. So I'll start with you, Nikki.
Yes, I'm the connector, right? I look to see what do people have that they can be able to give and what is it that they need. And I try to find that equal balance when I do matchmaking. And I think I changed my, maybe about a week ago. Sorry, I'm at the airport. About a week ago, I changed it to say matchmaker, to that effect, because I find that the way that we grow is through our community, like we've mentioned before. But through the Scaling My Impact, I want to find those that are looking for accountants. Okay, I have some, but the accountants, they're looking for marketing. Well, we have different kinds of marketing, so from the Top Voices Unite, that's a group from Top Voices that have that pretty blue badge on LinkedIn. And then Emerging Voices Unite, those are ones that didn't get picked with the pretty blue badge, but their voices are just as powerful. I keep connecting them. I say, hey, look, did you see so-and-so's post? Go check it out. Hey, did you see so-and-so's event? Let's go to it. And I just continue to figure out ways that we can be able to blend together. Bobby has done a great job to be able to host these kinds of events and bringing people together. And then do you still do the chat for your Thursday mastery? Is it on?
Yeah, we still do the it's on Clubhouse.
But that's a good way to bring people together so that they can have those resources. So Maria, how about you? What's your style of building community?
Yeah, so we have had, well, I mean, I was a membership organization when I bought it. And we in COVID saw that at least career services providers needed support, right? People are independent or they're in a one-person office, and we have a very mentally taxing job, especially when the economy is bad, which kind of seems to be on this little roller coaster lately, right? So we started a membership as well, a monthly membership called the Career Industry Authority, and it gives people an opportunity to come together. Every week we have mastermind opportunities, kind of, sort of like Bobby, every week, and it gives people an opportunity to share their struggles. I also go live every Tuesday, so I actually have a live stream starting in just a few minutes. I've gone live every Tuesday since January of 2020. And I love that because it gives people an opportunity to join the community in a very informal way, just like you're doing here, Bobby, and gives people a way for support, but also for conversation. We also have a Facebook group, so we build the community there where people can engage and interact, and that's free. That you don't have to be a paid member to join that. And I love the connections, like you're saying, where we can see, hey, this person is got this type of client, but can't serve them for whatever reason. And it means that someone else gets that opportunity. And it's just a great opportunity to build community, support each other, and really have that feeling of a company, whereas a lot of my coaches are more solopreneurs. Now they have an opportunity to have colleagues. How about you, Pam?
I don't know that I'm great at this like you two. I think I'm a joiner versus a community creator. There's a small group that I did put together. There are folks who work in the agile space, like where I work. And most of them I've worked with before. There's a couple that we just kind of grandfather in and invite. And we try to get together once a month and do lunch and support each other. And I know it's been a great help to folks who have been looking for jobs and, getting referrals and things. So it's just kind of an open group that you can share things. We share pictures of our family, anything fun going on. But I think I lean more to reaching out and joining other groups versus me establishing something on my own. But you guys are giving me some food for thought. So since I have all these experts in front of me, maybe I need to start something like that with your help, of course.
But I just saw Meryl just listed a whole bunch of associations that you were a part of. The WBNA, what was that like? What was it like to be able to work with those women?
Well, I actually haven't. These are just folks I follow. I'm not like out there actually doing something for them. I'm promoting them on my own. For example, we're in the NCAA championships and I fell asleep on the games last night and was devastated because one of the stars tore an ACL, Juju Watkins. I'm still getting over that. But yeah, I just try to encourage anybody I can around me. I actually have a cousin who's she's already a great athlete. She's going on a full ride to college and she's going through some things. So she's got me on the speed dial. When something comes up, I could tell her, the coach said this and I didn't like it. And I said, aren't you leaving in a month and a half? Rear view mirror. What are you thinking about? Just keep it moving. And so just little tips and tricks, I think, help. I've thought about starting a youth group to help coach them as they transition from high school to college or beyond. But I haven't necessarily dug into it yet, but I'm definitely open to do more of that.
Awesome. Well, actually, Pam, I want to talk to you about something else. So, look, you are an Olympian, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to go to the Olympics, and you talked about how even though you've achieved what I would call a monumental success, sometimes you had doubts about, talking about what you've done or things like that. So, can you talk a bit about that, because I think that's a really important thing for
Bobby's
folks to
hitting my
understand.
sweet spot now. Yeah, I did compete in the Olympics. I graduated from Stanford. And at some point in my career, I hid these things because somewhere in my brain, I felt as though folks kind of, they want to hang out and do stuff with me. And then it just fades. And I had told myself it was because of these great accomplishments. So I minimized them. And I realized many years later that I was doing this and I was horrified. So I managed to get them back out there and utilize them to help me. But what I've learned is everybody does this. We're taught to not necessarily take credit or share our accomplishments because we don't know the difference between sharing and bragging. So sharing is I'm good at this. Bragging is I'm better than you. But somehow we don't see the line. And so when you ask someone to talk about their accomplishments and stuff, for some it's really, really hard. And it puzzles me because I think you have worked how long to get an MBA, or you've worked how long to get this? And you can't even talk about it. We need to fix that. So one of the things I realize is that I've gotten over the hump, and now I'm here to get other people over the hump too, because it doesn't make any sense to work so hard for something and then just sweep it under the rug for some reason. There were people who would do anything for your accomplishment. So I'm trying to be instead of a chief minimizing officer, that's a term I coined, I want to be a chief maximizing officer and maximizing all of your skills and talents and accomplishment to be better. How's that, Bobby?
That's beautiful. And that perfectly segues into my next thing, which is I think that we should celebrate women. So, Marie, what is something that you've done that you're most proud of?
Oh, man. To be honest, this is hard. It shouldn't be hard, right?
That's right. But I want you guys to promote and say that I've done this. I'm awesome. So, what have you done? Yeah, tell us.
So, man, when I bought my business, they had never been outside of the North America, Canada, US, for their annual event symposium in person. And right away, I said, if we're going to be an international organization, we can't just be stateside. So we went to Madrid in 2018 for our annual event. I was 8 months pregnant. I flew from Barcelona to Beijing to speak at a symposium in Beijing, all by myself.
Wow.
And Yeah, and I did it. I went and saw the Great Wall all by myself, 8 months pregnant, and that opportunity and that experience and just getting out there and doing it was probably one of my lifetime accomplishments.
That's fantastic. Wow.
Huge. I don't think we can compare.
And
Yeah, we're done. We're out.
Well, thanks everybody. It's good to see you.
No. Listen, I mean, I think Pam's Olympic thing is amazing, and that's glad to hear that, Marie and Nikki. What's something you've done that you're really, really proud of? Besides parenting,
Right.
because I know we're all proud of our
Right.
kids, we love our kids. But outside of that,
Well, I mean, if you feed off of the parenting, so as a part of my not bragging, but I homeschool all of the children. So,
Oh my
and
God.
my older two got into a good college. They both went on scholarships, and their SAT or the ACT scores were significant. And so I would say that investment into them, the sacrifice that was made, should not be ignored. It did take me a while to be able to get like, oh, you're the mom, you know, like, or you're the founder's mom, because my husband had we had a fintech, and to be able to get over that hump. No, I'm enough, and I'll say it again, I am enough. You know, so by getting those two boys into college and then having the scholarships and then being able to get in a fraternity, one is the president now of such a fraternity, and he led a philanthropic event and got to meet with the president of the college, and was impressive, you know, and then the other one is assisting in that. So yes, parenting, we can say that's a side, but that is a huge accomplishment to watch each one of my children to succeed in the world, because it's my fault. You know, that's my doing. And then to be aside my husband, we had our company and we went 3 times Inc. 5000, fastest growing companies in the US. That's significant because I was a part of marketing. Of course, he had something to do with it because, you know, he brought in the business. But that was significant. And then we got this offer to be able to sell. And I would say that as a team, I can't take credit for it, we really did well. And that's where Market Me More came from. And I got to go off on my own. I mean, he's still helping me, but with these 3 guys to be able to start something awesome that's bigger than me. So I'm proud of that too. So there you go, Bobby. I got parenting and I got my business part in too.
that's awesome. And speaking of promoting, you guys, look, I mean, again, you're part of TLB Club, and TLB Club hosts this monthly live stream, and I want to thank you all for being here. But another way for me to champion, empower, and support you is I'd love for you guys to promote what you're working on. So let's go to you, Marie. Why don't you share something? How can people follow you? What are you working on? We'd love for you to kind of sell something or promote what you're working
So
on.
our in-person event is coming up in Baltimore on April 6th, which is coming up quickly, but Melanie will be there from TLB Club, and I'm so excited to get to meet her in person. Yeah, very exciting. So that's the in-person thing. And then we started a series on AI for career services providers. And so that starts on April 11th, how career services providers can use AI in their work with clients. Thanks.
No problem. Over to you, Nikki. What are you working on? What can we support
We
you
are
on?
creating go-to-market strategies for founders that are looking to grow past the 1 million ARR. We have an event April 9th called Scaling My Impact, which is a virtual event where we get them together. We give them the opportunity to be able to pitch their business in front of live investors. And this is going to be the second that we've done. We'll do 2 more before our big event in Miami, July 7th and 9th. We will add the links to this, the signups in the chat or the comments or whatever, but this is a pretty significant opportunity for us to be able to share resources from across the world and across several different departments, which, ladies, I'm going to need your help. I need resume writers and I need tech gurus to be able to speak into these people's lives. So we'll catch up after.
Awesome.
Did you
How
just
about you,
rope
Pam?
us
What are you
into
working on?
something without our consent? Is that what that was?
I did. Yeah. You're welcome.
Good.
Well, my big accomplishment for this year is I actually wrote a book. It's called Shifting the Spotlight, My Post-Olympic Leadership Journey. And so one of the things I'm working on is marketing it. I'm not very good at it. I clearly haven't been speaking to you two, or else it would be way out there. But at some point, I would like to offer some sort of coaching for folks who, one, can't speak about their accomplishments and it bothers them, or two, have goals and they're not able to get over the hump and achieve them. Because I have wanted to be a writer forever, and I finally got over the hump. So I'm here to sort of help others get past what they can't seem to and just share my experiences.
Okay, well, listen, I know that we only have a few more minutes left, but I wanted to make sure we got to promote you and what you're doing. I think that again, people, make sure you follow these three amazing women. Make sure you check out the TLB Club in terms of what we're doing. You can kind of see what it's all about, who's there, the events we run, things like that. But I think that in terms of a closing thought, and I know maybe Marie might have to go sooner, so I'm going to ask her first, which is, if you have kind of a final thought or message for women, young girls, even men, or the world or society, what is it, what would be your message for them when it comes to Women's History
I
Month?
can go. I use a lot of quotes. In fact, on all my
Okay,
LinkedIn posts, I start with someone's famous quote. And one of my favorites is by Carrie Walsh Jennings. She was an Olympic volleyball player who won all kinds of medals. And the quote is, "I don't want to be better than you or him or her. I want to be better than I am right now." So I say that to you for folks to not worry about comparing yourself with everyone and just try to get better on your own day to day, and you will be successful.
I love that. How about you, Marie? What's your message?
That's so powerful. And that there's a fine balance between compassion and drive, and it's not an either or. So you can believe you're enough and keep striving at the same time. And that's, I think, when it comes from that place of self-love, it is a much more powerful, attractive striving than when it comes from fear or trying to prove yourself. And I think that's what I see in the women in front of me today, is that strength and confidence just emanates out of believing you're enough, but that doesn't mean that we stop trying, driving, and being allies for each other.
So that feeds right into what I've been putting on my
Awesome.
refrigerators for every house that we've ever owned, is love God, love people, love yourself. And then for them, I tell them to dream big, expect challenges, and nevertheless persevere with joy. And I think this is something that all of us here on this call, I think this is something that we've done well at, to persevere with joy. And I'm glad to have been able to do this with you all.
It's nice.
Thank you so much for that. I think I'll share my final message, which is, look, I want to talk to the men because women are, we have to empower them, we have to support them, and it's important for us to be allies. And allyship is not just saying things; it's about taking action. It's about calling things out, particularly calling out the men who are being toxic and all that kind of stuff. I think that's an important thing for us men. That's what we should focus on this month, and I hope other men will take this message and do their best to do that. With that, thanks so much for joining us, guys. You can watch the replay on all. This is streaming everywhere: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So make sure you check the replay. Make sure you follow these three amazing women. Check out the TLB Club by clicking on that QR code. And I want to thank you, the three of you, for being here today. You inspire me in different ways. I'm really grateful and thankful to have known you. I haven't met any of you in person, which is kind of blows my mind sometimes, because I'm up in Canada. But I hope someday that as we move forward, we'll be able to do some sort of event and we can all see each other. That'd be great. So thanks everybody, and thanks so much for being here.